Countdown to bail hearing. Richard Allen does not have typical murder charges. There are all sorts of ways a person can be charged with the killing of another person in the great state of Indiana. Voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, reckless homicide. But there are only two types of murder: regular murder and felony murder. In Indiana, murder is defined as a person who knowingly or intentionally kills another human being commits murder, a felony. This is not what Richard Allen is charged with. Richard Allen is charged with felony murder. Specifically, he is charged as follows under Section 2 of the murder statute. A person who kills another human being while committing or attempting to commit kidnapping commits murder, a felony. Here is a picture of the actual charges filed against Richard Allen by the prosecutor. It's a little bit crooked because apparently, even though they've had almost 6 years to get this case together, they can't properly scan in a document. So 2 people's lives have been tragically cut short. What does it matter what type of murder charge Richard Allen has? Well, it matters in a few big ways. Felony murder doesn't require that Richard Allen knowingly or intentionally kill the victims. The prosecutor does not have to prove he meant for them to die. But the prosecutor does have to prove that the victims died while Richard Allen was committing or attempting to commit kidnapping. If that sounds complicated, well, it's because it is more complicated. Let's break it down. What is felony murder? Indiana has said that some crimes are so inherently dangerous that if you commit those crimes and someone dies, even if you did not mean for the person to die, you have committed felony murder. Indiana law says that kidnapping is one of those inherently dangerous crimes. So if you're kidnapping someone and that person dies for any reason, the victim's trying to escape, there's bad ventilation in the kidnap van, or you run into a car because you're trying to outrun the law, if the victim dies, you'll be facing felony murder charges. Bottom line, Indiana has to prove the victims died while Richard Allen was committing or attempting to commit kidnapping. Let's back it up. How does Indiana define kidnapping? A person who knowingly or intentionally removes another person by fraud, enticement, force, or threat of force from one place to another commits kidnapping. Now, I'm a child of the 80s. In my mind, kidnapping is literally a small child being grabbed off the street and taken to a secret location. Then the good guys come and rescue that small child. But in real life, kidnapping is much more subtle. I've had clients charged with kidnapping as part of a domestic violence case for forcibly picking up their spouse and taking them from the bedroom to the living room so that my client could get some sleep. Simply making someone leave one place to another place by force or the threat of force is enough. So what evidence is there in this case that a kidnapping took place? The prosecutor has not released much information, but there is a heavily redacted probable cause affidavit that does show evidence that supports the victims were kidnapped. There's a video of a man in a dark jacket telling the victims to go down a hill, and there's also mention of a gun. As a side note, in Indiana, telling anyone to go anywhere at gunpoint or even implied gunpoint is going to be enough to charge kidnapping. Now, why has Indiana only filed felony murder charge against Richard Allen? I don't know. There's not been too much evidence released to the public at this point, but it's my professional opinion as an Indiana criminal defense attorney, there must be a reason why only felony murder has been charged. Why do I think that? Because it adds more hoops for the prosecutor to jump through in order to try to obtain a conviction. Let's talk about that. To convict Richard Allen of Section 1 murder, the state must simply show that Richard Allen knowingly or intentionally killed the victims. That's 4 steps. Richard Allen knowingly or intentionally killed the victims. 4 steps. Pretty easy in Indiana to find someone guilty of murder. Is someone dead? Did the person who killed them mean to kill them? If the answer is yes to both, that is murder. To convict Richard Allen of Section 2 murder, also known as felony murder, the state must prove Richard Allen killed the victims while removing or attempting to remove the victims from one place to another by fraud, enticement, force, or the threat of force. That's 7 steps. As you can see, felony murder is a bit more complicated than regular murder. I'm not saying it's a science of rockets, but felony murder is more complicated than old-fashioned murder. I've been a criminal defense attorney for 17 years, and the way they charge this case is driving me nuts. There has to be a reason, and I don't know what it is. Doing criminal defense for as long as I have, I've come across a few universal truths, one of which is a prosecutor never works harder than they have to. If there's any way the prosecutor thought he could get away with charging plain old-fashioned murder, he would do it. Hopefully the bail hearing at the end of this month shines some light on all of this. If you've made it to the end of this video, please subscribe and leave me a comment. And if you disagree with me, let me know that too. It's also important to remember that Richard Allen is innocent until and unless proven guilty. And most importantly, remember always, plead the fifth.